So now that we have a guide in place, an object following that guide in a way that we're happy with, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a line of text. And that line of text is going to be an inspirational quote or a saying that means something that relates to the animation that's taking place here. I'm going to put a link in the assignment for you to view some inspirational posters. And if something speaks to you, you can build your animation around that and include that into our animation. So in doing that, we have to create another layer, and that's going to be our text layer. You may find when you create your own new text layer, it may drop itself below the guide layer. Just click and drag it up to the top. So on layer 6, I'm going to double click. I'm going to call this text because that's where I'm going to put my text at. All right, so we're going to use the text tool, and we're going to click inside and create a text box, and I'm going to write I am soaring above the clouds. Now we can grab this, drag it out so that it fits. We can also adjust in our text the size within here and the color within our text. Remember, if you want to change the color, you have to highlight the color or highlight the text and then go in here and choose another color. I kind of like that color, so I'm going to stick with it. So I'm going to choose my selection tool and I'm going to set it up here. Okay, that's kind of what I'm looking for. So we have a keyframe in frame 1 with our new text in here. And what we're going to do again is we're going to create another tween because we want some animation to take place. So I'm going to, in this case, create another symbol. So select keyframe 1, go up to modify, convert to symbol. It's going to be a movie clip again. So MC underbar text. I've already used that in my example. We'll call it text inspiration. Okay, I now have a movie clip. So I'm going to add a keyframe in here at the end as well on frame 45, F6. And I'm going to then select both keyframes by holding down the Shift key and right-click, create another classic tween. I can make a movie tween as well. That's completely up to you. You're free to play with this and develop this on your own based on how you want this to look. So for me, what I want to do is I want this line of text to start out of screen, come onto screen, and fade up, and then fade out and go back off of screen. So to do that, I'm going to add some more keyframes. So on frame 10, I'm going to add a new keyframe. And I know that at frame 10, this is where I want it to be. And I'm going to go to frame 35, and I'm going to add another keyframe there as well. So to begin with, I'm going to go to frame 1, and I'm going to move my object out of frame so that when it comes on, it stays on while the plane is flying through. And if I go to the last keyframe, I'm then going to move it back out of frame. All right. There's my animation. But what I wanted to do on frame 1 is I want to use some of the special effects that we've talked about, and I want to be able to apply that to the text. So I select frame 1, I select my object, which opens up a different kind of properties dialog that you've been using in the special effects assignment that you've been working on. And for me, I'm just going to change the alpha. So the alpha looks at the transparency of an object. So I'm going to change that to 0 so that it's totally transparent on frame 1. And then what will happen is it will soar up to 100% on my on frame 10. So if I go to alpha for here, put it up to 100%, it's going to stay at 100% at frame 35. And then at frame 45, I want it to click on the object, go back down to 0. Now, I would encourage you to play with different effects that are in here to give yourself something that you like. Maybe you want to add a drop shadow or a glow or change the alpha or change the tint, the brightness. Those are all properties that are available to you over here on the right-hand side. So let's look at our final object. So at frame 1, it's invisible. The text comes in, it fades up, it stays up, and then it fades out and disappears. So let's run that. So Control Enter to run our animation. You'll notice in this case that my guide layer is gone. It's disappeared for the animation. I can do that back on the stage as well if I want to see how it looks. All I'm going to do is go to my guide layer and hide that layer. So now when I scrub my animation, you'll know it's not there. So I encourage you to use your skills within Illustrator to create multi-leveled objects. So objects on top of objects, play with different transparency, play with different drawing features that are in there. Don't necessarily just stay with the paintbrush tool or the pencil tool. Try to build objects using shapes and manipulate those shapes so that you get some really interesting background images or images that you use to move through your animation on the guide layer and import those into Animate. You're free to draw the object that you're going to move along the guide path in Animate CC. You're more than welcome to do that. Just have some fun with it and customize it. Don't necessarily just stick to a generic shape, okay? Your final product will be here, and that is what I'll be looking for you to upload for assessment.